Yo, what's going on, guys? Today, we're going to be ranking all 116 cards in Clash Royale. We'll be ranking each card based off a few categories, mainly how good the card is in the meta, but also just the general strength of it, so even if a card is not too popular but is a solid card, it could still get a decent ranking. And of course, there will be some personal opinion in here as well, so make sure to comment down below whether you guys agree or disagree with my rankings, and also do make sure to stick around until the end for the full tier list. Alright, so to start it off with, we have the skeletons. I'll put skeletons straight away in the A tier. Kind of the low A tier though, because they're not mandatory now like they used to be. Before, you kind of had to have skeletons in all the cycle decks, but now you can play stuff like guards instead pretty easily, and guards are actually a lot better than skeletons against stuff like Evo Pekkas, for example. Now, Evo skeletons, I'll throw them in the B tier, surprisingly. Evo skeletons really don't seem as good as they used to be because so many people have so many spells now, and Evo skeletons are kind of hard to chain with compared to how they used to be, because now when you play normal skeletons against Evo skeletons, the normal skeletons actually will kill the skeleton's evolution first. So if you have like one skeleton versus one Evo skeleton, the skeleton wins. Surprisingly, I don't know why they did that to the card. But yeah, it's a fairly balanced evolution. Next up, the Electro Wizard. I have to throw this straight in the D tier, kind of low D tier too, because Goblinstein is everywhere and Goblinstein is everything Electro Wizard isn't, basically. It stuns like the Electro Wizard, but it also has so much offense. It's so much more tanky. It can survive a Pekka hit, for example, survive spells better. Yeah, there's just no reason to play E-Wiz. It used to be good in Pekka, but now even Pekka has so many better options than Electro Wizard. The Bomber, man, the Bomber got a nerf actually, got a 3% damage nerf. I thought that would balance it out because it allows spirits to no longer get one-shotted by it, but apparently it did not balance the card, so this card will go straight at the top of the A tier for now. Bomber is very good in Pekka, Goblin Giant, Lava Hound, all these really popular meta decks right now. Most of the meta decks can fit Bomber super well, even Goblin Drill as well. Man, I almost want to put Bomber low S tier actually. Snap, I actually might put him low S tier, guys, I don't know. Maybe I'll change this later depending on how the list goes, but Bomber is actually so insanely good right now. Evo Bomber, I will put in the A tier as well. It's very good, but half the time Bomber's played, it doesn't even use the evolution. Like in Goblin Drill, it doesn't use the evolution. In Goblin Giant, it doesn't use the evolution, so I think it's not really reliant at all on the evolution, even though the evolution is actually a very solid thing. Ice Golem, I almost want to throw it in the D tier, but it is good for kiting Evo Pekkas and stuff like that. Not really good at all for countering Goblinstein, which I feel like is preventing it from being much better, so I'll put it low C tier. Not too far away from D tier, honestly, but a couple Hog decks can make good use out of it, so it's not that bad of a card, even though it's not used much at all. Spear Goblins, I'm going to throw Spear Goblins in the C tier too. Their use rate must be very low right now. No deck really uses them, but I mean, I guess some Mega Knight decks, maybe some Mega Knight bait decks, but they're not that bad at all. They got a buff a while ago, which makes them at least playable, so yeah, nothing too much to say about Spear Goblins. Alright, now the Archers, I was going to put them very low, but there has been one Balloon Miner deck that counters the meta pretty well that does use Archers, so I feel like Archers can afford to go maybe in the middle of the C tier. Xbow's obviously a deck that uses them too, but Xbow's not very popular at all. Yeah, fairly balanced card, could maybe take a very small buff, but it's not really too needed. Evo Archers on the other hand, I mean, whenever Archers are used, they're pretty much always played with the evolution. The evolution is fairly average, except in Xbow it's actually really good. The Balloon Archers deck does also use the Evo Archers. But man, there's so much arrows, so I almost just want to put them, I don't know, I'd say high C tier. Maybe could be low B tier, but yeah, there's just so much arrows. Okay, we have the arrows here now, actually. I'll go for arrows above the Bomber in the S tier, because guys, arrows are so good. They counter Archers, they counter Bomber, they counter minions. I feel like most spells in the game are replaceable, like instead of Log you can play Snowball, instead of Zap you can play Rage, but arrows, you can't really replace them with anything, so yeah, arrows just counter everything so well. Even after the Crown Tower damage nerf, they're still so darn good in pretty much every beatdown deck in the game. Okay, now Ice Spirit is actually surprisingly good right now. It's a little bit underrated, I feel like. For Ice Spirit, I'd go for it above the Evo Bomber in the A tier. It's very good right now in Cycle decks. It's mainly good to counter the Pekka decks going around it. It's so much better than the other spirits like Fire Spirit, because when you have Ice Spirit, you can just like stun up the Ramrod or stun up the Evo Pekka and just get so much more value out of it on defense especially. Evo Ice Spirit, man, I actually have to surprisingly put this in the B tier. above the Evo Skeletons, it's actually becoming quite a bit better recently. The main reason why is because it counters the Pekka deck so well. Like, when I'm playing Royal Hogs Earthquake, I play the Evo Skeletons and the Evo Ice Spirit, but I prefer to actually have the Evo Ice Spirit if I had to choose one of them, because it's just so good right now on defense against a lot of what's popular, a lot of these beatdown decks. It's not that good against Cycle decks, but against beatdown it does so much good work. It's not really the best evolution, but it is played a decent amount just because most of the decks that have Ice Spirit available don't really have many other evolutions to even play instead of it. Now, Electro Dragon, I mean, I think I have to put it in the D tier. I'll put it a little bit above the Ewiz. Yeah, and I mean, there's not too much to say about it. Nobody plays E-Drag without the evolution, and yeah, I mean, Golem would maybe use it, but nobody plays Golem right now, so that's really all I have to say about that card. But Evo E-Drag, on the other hand, I think I will put in the B tier, probably between Ice Spirit and Skeletons. The reason why is because there's so much lightning. I feel like it's actually a very strong evolution, but there's so much lightning that there's no way I can put it any higher than this. I'm not even sure if it deserves B tier with how much lightning is being played right now. People just really started to counter the heck out of E-Drag. I feel like people are not even trying to counter the E-Drag, it's just that they're trying to counter the Goblinstein with the lightning, and that just so happens to hard counter Electro Dragon as well, so kind of unfortunate for the card. Alright, Valkyrie. Valkyrie does feel quite good right now. It's quite good in Lava Hound, and I know there are quite a few other decks that play it too. I'm not really sure where I would rank it. I feel like it could go in the low A tier, but it's not super used right now. It's not the best against stuff like Pekka, for example, so I think Valkyrie could kind of just sit here in the B tier for right now. I don't know, it's a fairly balanced card, maybe a tiny bit above average. It does counter stuff like Drill pretty well, some big Goblin Giant pushes maybe, and it does not that bad against the Goblinstein as well. Evo Valkyrie is pretty good too. I don't know, I feel like Evo Valkyrie I just have to put a little bit higher in the B tier. I was almost going to go A tier for the Valkyrie and Evo Valkyrie, but it's not super popular, so I think that's a fair ranking for it. Evo Valkyrie is definitely very solid, though. It counters Goblinstein quite nicely as well. Oh man, the Cannon. Guys, Cannon is so insanely good right now. It's just the perfect counter. The best counter to ever exist against Goblinstein. Yeah, I mean, dude, Cannon? I don't know, I think this has to go straight in the S tier, maybe even above Arrows, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe even above Arrows, man. Cannon is so darn good. It's in every single deck right now, even Golem, Splash Yard, Piggies, Hog, every single deck in the game right now has Cannon, even beatdown decks. So, yeah, not much to say about it. It's really just the simple fact that it counters Pekka very well, and it counters Goblinstein very well. I don't think it needs a nerf, though, despite how high up it is. I feel like cards like Arrows might need a nerf more than the Cannon would. You know what, for that reason, I'm actually going to put Arrows above Cannon, even though Cannon is probably a little bit more versatile, at least for being a building. Alright, now the Suspicious Bush actually got a speed buff, but still nobody uses it, really. I think it's not going to be that bad in CRL because some bait decks do pretty well with it, but most bait players still choose to not use it. So for the Bush, I guess I would say... maybe above the Archers in C tier, because even though nobody really plays it, I feel like it really is not that bad. It's actually pretty easy to run it and have at least some success, but most decks are usually better off without it, if I have to be honest. Maybe I'll even put the normal Archers above the Bush. Okay, now the Goblin Demolisher got a very undeserved nerf in my opinion. It was quite good in Drill, but that was really the only deck it was used in, and for some reason people still rallied to nerf the card. I really don't know why. Now everyone's playing Bomber instead of the Demolisher. Demolisher, though, I mean, yeah, that nerf really hit it very hard. Now it feels like it connects to the tower way less than it used to. Man, I really can't put this card too high. I guess I would say maybe below the Evo Archers in C tier. It feels like a pretty mid card to me. Maybe I'll put it above the Evo Archers, but man, it's really just not good like it used to be. It's probably not that bad, but Bomber's 10 times better and half the elixir, so you have a much better option with that. Okay, Mega Knight, man, this one is interesting. Mega Knight, I'd probably put... Snap, I don't know where I would actually put it. I almost want to put it in the D tier, actually, which might surprise a lot of you guys. I don't know, I'll probably put it at the bottom of... I don't know. Probably at the bottom of C tier, pretty much, because, man, if there were no such thing as Evo Mega Knight, I don't think anyone would run it in this meta, pretty much, because there's so much Pekka everywhere. Maybe some Mega Knight decks can beat Pekka if you have, like, Inferno Dragon and stuff, but even then, Goblinstein does reset it now, so... Yeah, there's not too much to do. Like, if you play an Inferno Dragon against a Pekka, they just go for the Goblinstein, and then you're kind of dead right there. So, yeah, not much to say about Mega Knight. There's just way too much Pekka. Evo Mega Knight, on the other hand, is actually very good. Yeah, this might be a little bit controversial, but I'll actually put it in the mid-B tier. It's used barely at all, actually, because there's so much Pekka, but even against Pekka, Evo Mega Knight does have a small chance, and yeah, I feel like it's going to be so broken once Pekka balances out. It's actually a very broken evolution, in my opinion, but the meta is just not suited for it right now. But however, the Evo Mega Knight does counter Piggies super well, which is actually very meta, and also can counter stuff like Goblin Drill, so I feel like it's not actually that bad. Archer Queen, man, Archer Queen is actually so surprisingly good right now. Even though Lightning is kind of everywhere, Archer Queen is actually really nice now that Void got nerfed, and also, yeah, that Piggy's deck just does so well with it. You just play it up high, even if they have a Lightning, it still does so much good work, and if they want to Lightning it away, they get a free -1 trade. So for Archer Queen, a little bit tough to say. I think I'd put it in the B tier. I can't really put it A tier just because only one deck really runs it, but the strength of this card is actually very good. It's just that when you play Goblinstein, you can't play another champion. So for that reason, not many people can actually use Archer Queen, even though it seems very strong to me. Alright, next up we have the Goblin Giant. Goblin Giant Pekka is actually very, very good right now, and I think it might become the #1 deck in the game for this season. And in CRL World Finals too, it'll be probably one of the top few decks. So for Goblin Giant, I think I want to maybe just leave it at the high B tier. Yeah. And for Evo Goblin Giant, I'll actually put it one higher and get that in the A tier. Yeah, I don't know. This might be a little bit of a high ranking for the card. Maybe the deck is strong because of other factors, not the Goblin Giant itself. But me personally, I don't know. The Goblin Giant's actually fairly strong. And I feel like the combo cards with it are just so good too that really enable it to get so much value. Oh man, now the Void, guys. The Void got a huge nerf, and now I just haven't seen it basically at all anymore. The thing is, though, I don't know if it's as trash as people think it is, because there's just better options, but if people actually played it, I think they could still do something with the card, maybe. I don't know, I almost want to put it in the low C tier, but I think D tier is better. High D tier. I don't think it's completely unusable compared to some of the other cards in the game, but really no reason to play it over the other spells you could play. Especially Lightning is so much better now. The Wizard, I mean, okay, Wizard, we have our first F tier card. There's Lightning everywhere, you just can't play Wizard by itself. You just will get shut down right away and give your opponent free tower damage with the Lightning and free value on your other troops too. Not much to say about it. But Evo Wizard, on the other hand, is quite a bit better. The thing is, man, nobody runs Evo Wizard anymore. I don't really know why. It got a small nerf, I think, but I don't think that's the reason why it's not being used. I think just that there's better options now, like better splash damage troops such as Bomber for 2 Elixir, and also, I don't know, the Goblinstein decks just don't seem to combo super well with the Wizard, and maybe also the Lightning being everywhere is still making it bad for Evo Wizard, because you do get to the Evo Wizard every other Wizard, but still half the time you're gonna just feed the Lightning, so for Evo Wizard, I feel like maybe, ooh, I don't even know if I'm being too generous, actually. B tier might actually be too generous for the card, but I think I'm gonna go for it here just because I know it's not that bad, even though it's not played super much. This is kind of just an instinct ranking with the Evo Wizard. We actually have a lot of Evos here in the B tier so far. Okay, now Goblin Drill, man. Goblin Drill seems so good right now, guys. I don't know. There's this really good Goblinstein Bomber Goblin Drill deck, and I think I want to rank this in the A tier. Okay, wait, hold up. Actually, never mind. Now that I think about it, it's kind of the Evo Drill that makes it good, right? So for normal Drill, we can actually throw that down a little bit, now that I think about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure where I would put this. Maybe just like in the middle of the B tier, but then the Evo Drill is what we have to put in the A tier. Evo Drill actually got a pretty interesting rework, but it seems to be very good still because it got that extra spawn goblin, and also now you can no longer tell where the normal drills are being placed. Like before, they had an icon where the normal drills were going. Now they don't anymore, so people can't see where it's going. I think it's very strong right now. It might end up being one of the top decks in the game as well. Okay, now Ice Mage, man. Ice Mage was actually very popular, but it kind of started to slowly dwindle down in use rate, I feel like. I don't know, decks are just slowly starting to stop to use the Ice Mage. Let me think about this. Where would I rank it? I feel like kind of in the middle of the B tier here. It was A tier for some time, and then stopped being used as much. The mortar deck that it was really popular and also kind of died down a little bit. Might even be a little bit lower than this, but it's definitely a pretty solid card, even after the change in the meta. Ice Mage is actually great. It's nice to see it without NATO being used. Now, Fireball. I mean, I guess Fireball, I'll have to put it kind of here in the B tier. I can't really put it much lower than that just because it's a fairly versatile spell. Anyone can really run it. There are better options like Lightning, and even Poison is better, I believe, but Drill was actually using a bit of Fireball. But now it seems like they're back to Poison again. Definitely a solid spell overall. Alright, the Fisherman. Fisherman, man, has been actually getting quite a few requests for it to get nerfed, surprisingly. Before, nobody really complained about Fisherman much, but it's really good right now in the Goblin Giant decks, the Pekka decks, everything like that. Just a really great meta support card. So I think for Fisherman, I'd actually probably put it towards the top of the A tier. I don't know, it's actually really strong. People do want it to get a nerf. I don't personally think it needs a nerf. I think it's just because the meta suits it really well that it's so broken and used in so many decks. But yeah, it's very good at countering Pekka, countering all these big heavy beatdown decks as well. Okay, Ramrider. Man, people also want Ramrider to get a nerf. I don't think it deserves one though. I think it's only used a lot because it's one of the better win conditions to pair with a Pekka. So for Ramrider, man, what would I say? I don't know. I personally think maybe Goblin Giant Pekka is actually better. So I think I'll go for it right next to the Goblin Giant here. They're pretty similar in my opinion. Ramrider is very good though. It just... the charge time is so quick now compared to a while ago before it got that one buff. Mortar was actually very good, but the Evo Mortar got a pretty big nerf. So for Mortar, I think I would probably have to say B tier somewhere. Yeah, I'd probably say somewhere in the middle of the B tier for Mortar. It's probably still viable, but just not really nearly as good as it was before, because Cannoneer got a couple pretty heavy nerfs. Now, Evo Mortar is still pretty solid as well. But I did see some Mortar decks stop to even use the Evo Mortar. Yeah, Evo Mortar, I'd probably put it right above the normal Mortar. It's not that good anymore, because now it takes so long to get that first shot off that used to just go off instantaneously when you deployed it, basically. Yeah, it just really fell off from the Cannoneer nerf as well as the nerf to the card itself, or to the evolution itself. Hog Rider, man, I don't want to put Hog too high. It could go maybe low B tier. Some people might tell me to do that, but personally, I don't think it's too good. It's always going to be used because everyone has it leveled up and everyone has experience playing Hog Rider. Pretty much is one of the most used decks in the game, but as far as strength goes, I think I would have to put it probably high up in the C tier somewhere. It's not completely unplayable, but there's so many better things to run, like Goblin Drill, Ramrider decks, yeah, just anything, honestly. Almost any of the other cycle win conditions are better than Hog Rider right now. Tesla, man, it completely fell off. It's just getting so overshadowed by Cannon. Even though it's not bad, it actually got a buff to the normal Tesla, so... I don't know where I'd put it exactly. I feel like I'd have to put it probably somewhere here in the low B tier. It's probably better than this, but Cannon is so much better in this specific meta. Now, Evo Tesla, man, Evo Tesla really is not that good anymore, I feel like. I think Evo Tesla, I'd actually go for it right below the normal Tesla. It's really not that good. It's okay now. It's still good sometimes, but really not necessary to play the Evo Tesla. I think other evolutions can tend to be better in those Tesla cycle decks. Man, Elixir Collector, literally nobody uses it. Even Golem players with Pump are not non-existent anymore, basically. So, yeah, I mean, as far as competitive games, guys, I'm mostly talking about competitive, not really about mid-ladder, particularly. So for Pump, man, I really can't put it very high. I feel like I'd have to... I don't know, I could put it at the bottom of the C tier maybe, because it's not that bad, but who even plays it, you know? I don't know, I might even go for it... yeah, maybe in the D tier, because literally nobody uses it. I never ever face Pump. I guess the Pump decks are kind of just trash against Lightning. I think that's the reason. That's the reason that nobody plays it. Man, Inferno Tower was an interesting one. It was actually getting pretty good because it was countering Evo Pekka quite well, but now all the Evo Pekka players, instead of having Void, they have the Lightning, which can reset it. And pretty much fully kills it. So for Inferno Tower, I'd probably put it at the top of the C tier. It would be actually very good this meta if it weren't for the Lightning. But yeah, that's really all there is to it. It's also very expensive to counter something like a Goblin Stein compared to a cheap 3 elixir cannon. Okay, the Rage, man, Rage is so good right now. Actually, it pairs super well with the arrows especially. So for Rage, I definitely have to throw it up here in the A tier. It's very good in Ramrider Pekka and Ramrider Goblin Giant. Yeah, I'll definitely throw it up here. It is kind of replaceable, though. You can replace it with other cards, like maybe a Snowball or a Zap, but I don't know. Rage is just so good. It makes the Ramriders especially so hard to stop. And also the Evo Goblin Giant, when it's raged up, it spawns the Goblins out of its back even quicker, so definitely pairs well with the top win conditions. Okay, Normal Knight really is not that good, actually. But it's not that bad either. I'd probably put it kind of at the bottom of the B tier, I guess. I don't really see people almost ever use it now. It's not really very good to have a Knight and a Goblin Stein in the same deck. You kind of want to have either or, not both. But the Evo Knight is definitely good. It's just not really played too much anymore. People just don't want to use it over a Goblin Stein deck. So for Evo Knight, man, I don't even know where I would actually put it. I don't even know if it should go above the Evo Ice Spirit, actually. Okay, maybe it does have to go above it. I don't know. I might put Evo Knight. Okay, I don't know, actually. Honestly, maybe above the Evo Ice Spirit at the top of the B tier, because Evo Knight is just not really as good as it used to be. It's good at countering Cycle decks usually, but I mean, there are still Cycle decks, but there's also so much Pekka, and Pekka just doesn't care if it's a normal Knight or an Evo Knight. It kills it either way, so it doesn't get as much value as before. Goblins, man, Goblins are so incredibly bad right now. For Goblins, man, I straight up have to put these in the D tier, I think. I'm not even kidding. Yeah, I'm not even kidding, man. They're so incredibly, terribly bad against Evo Pekka. You want Skeletons or Guards, definitely not Goblins. That's really all there is to it. Tombstone. Some Lava Hound players were playing Tombstone, but man, it's pretty trash when it just completely heals up an Evo Pekka. Yeah, I think I'll just have to go for it kind of in the low C tier. The meta is just not good for it, and also arrows pretty much fully take out a Tombstone. Really just not a great card to run right now. Even Lava Hound would rather have guards most of the time these days. Goblin Barrel is actually quite good right now, surprisingly. I have seen quite a bit of Logbait. I don't think it's the barrel itself, though, that's actually particularly good. This is kind of a tough decision here. I feel like it deserves to... Okay, maybe not here. Maybe I'd actually put it... Man, I really don't know, guys. Maybe right next to Hog Rider in the C tier. Logbait is actually quite good right now, and Evo Barrel is especially good right now. That's the main reason that Logbait is actually viable. Okay, maybe Evo Barrel actually deserves to be a little bit lower. Maybe below the Evo Archers, actually, but the Evo Barrel, that card is really good. Evo Barrel, I'm actually going to go for right below the E-Drag in the B tier. Maybe could even go a bit higher, because the Evo is actually so broken how you can't tell which one is the fake barrel, which one is the real barrel. That's what makes Logbait actually playable these days. Kind of funny because it was actually pretty trash when it first came out. Okay, Pekka. Man, Pekka. Okay, honestly, guys, even normal Pekka... I think even normal Pekka deserves to go in the S tier, honestly. But the Evo Pekka, though, deserves to go at the top of the S tier. Man, it's kind of crazy how many S tier cards we already have here, guys. Normally, we don't have very many S tier cards at all, but this meta is very broken, it feels like. Yeah, Evo Pekka is so insane, and I got a pretty big nerf, though, and Pekka still seems to be pretty good. So I feel like it's not really fully the Evo Pekka. I feel like it's also the normal Pekka being very strong in itself. Even without Evo Pekka, I think a normal Pekka would actually be very good, but definitely the Evo is super broken as well still. Not too much to say about it, it's just simply the best card in the game, basically. Except one other card, maybe, or maybe a couple, we'll see. Alright, the Goblin Cage... I mean, it's really not that good. Yeah, I don't really know where I would rank it. Maybe somewhere here in the C tier. It's really not very good. It just not a good building compared to Cannon, especially. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Alright, so now we have the Evo Goblin Cage. Evo Goblin Cage is definitely a little bit better. It got a little bit of a buff as well, so Evo Cage could be decent. Let me think about where I want to put it, though. I feel like maybe it could deserve the low B tier. Maybe it could still be in the C tier, but it got a small buff, so I don't know. It's probably not too bad right now. The thing is, Lightning does do pretty decent against it. Yeah, I almost want to go the top of the C tier, but I'm not really sure what I would say. No, I think low B tier is fine. Alright, Baby Dragon. It's just kind of an awkward card in this meta. You kind of want a bit more DPS than Baby Dragon manages to offer for 4 Elixir. Doesn't do much at all to Goblinsteins, for example. Only Splash Yard players play it, but nobody even really plays Splash Yard these days. So as far as where I'd put it, probably right above the Suspicious Bush in the C tier. It's not a terrible card. I don't really want it to get a buff personally, but it just doesn't really fit too well in this current meta. Now, Cannoneer Tower got a pretty big nerf. People do still play it, though, for sure. I think I'd put it somewhere in the B tier here. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna... I'm not really ranking these towers against the rest of the troops. I'm more so ranking these towers based... Or like, against the other towers, so... Yeah, I'm not really saying that, like, Cannoneer is better than Mortar or something like that. I'm kind of just more so ranking the towers against the other towers, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Alright, Earthquake. I mean, Piggy's Earthquake is absolutely everywhere. I really don't think it's thanks to the Earthquake, though, that it's so good. Okay, wait, I take that back, actually. I was going to say Earthquake is kind of trash, but now that I think about it, Cannon is everywhere, so Earthquake is actually bound to be pretty decent. Where would I put this, though? I mean... probably below the Goblin Giant in the B tier. Earthquake is normally actually pretty bad. It doesn't really counter stuff like Tesla, for example, so it normally doesn't counter the buildings all that well, but in this current meta, when there's cannon everywhere, Earthquake is bound to be pretty good. It's not very versatile still. There's a few Hog EQ players, then a ton of Piggies players, and that's it for Earthquake. But it does do the job very well against cannon. Alright, Zap. Man, Zap is not very good right now. Rage is like 10 times better in every single deck. So for Zap, I mean, I don't know, I'd still put it at maybe the high C tier, because I know some Goblin Giant decks can actually use Zap without the Evo, and maybe some Pekka decks too, but it's really just not that good. The Evo Zap, though, it's not really used too much anymore, actually. People prefer arrows these days, and when they use Zap, half the time they actually don't even use the evolution anymore. But I really can't rank it too low either. I don't know, I almost want to put it high B tier. I think I'll put it at the top of the B tier. Maybe it could even be low A tier, but after the nerf, I think maybe high B tier is fine. A lot of decks don't use it anymore. Like, Lava Hound doesn't even seem to play it anymore. They prefer to have, like, Fireball, arrows over Evo Zap in there. Alright, Prince was actually very good after the buff, but then it kind of just fell off little by little. I guess because a lot of people are trying to counter Pekka by using stuff like Guards, and then Guards just so happen to also counter Prince very well. But yeah, nobody really uses Prince these days. I feel like I have to go for it at the high C tier, just because it's only really good in Mega Knight, but Mega Knight is not good right now, so Prince is a decent standalone card, but doesn't really find its place too much in this meta. Okay, Giant Skeleton, man, Giant Skeleton is really just not it right now. I think there's like one Giant Skeleton Piggies player maybe, but that's literally it. So for Giant Skeleton, man, I don't even know where I would have to put this card. I mean, probably even below the Suspicious Bush in the C tier. It just gets destroyed by Pekka. It's much better to have like a Mighty Miner or basically any other tank in the game over Giant Skeleton. If I were to play a Giant Skeleton deck, I'd much rather just have an Evo Pekka instead. Alright, Lightning, man. Lightning is so good right now, guys. Lightning is actually so good. I think I'll have to go for it in the S tier right behind the Evo Pekka. It's so good for countering the Goblinstein, and that's really the main reason why everyone plays it. Counters Queen Wall 2, counters buildings. Does all you need a spell to do in this current meta. The recruits... recruits, I would say, are actually quite bad right now. Normal recruits, honestly, could just probably go in the D tier. They're actually so bad right now without the evolution. Maybe, yeah, maybe even lower. Yeah, like here. But Evo recruits are a little bit better. They're still not very good at all, though, because even Evo Pekka decks seem to beat it. The reason why is because Evo Pekka just starts healing like crazy on the recruits. Yeah, Evo recruits, I think they could go potentially in the low B tier or high C tier. I don't know, I low-key just want to go for them at the top of the C tier. Yeah, because, I mean, there's like some recruits bait players. That's literally it, though. All the other recruits... Okay, no, you know what? I take that back. There are some recruits Piggies decks. Okay, I take that back, actually. Yeah, I'll go for them in the middle of the B tier. There have been some recruits Piggies decks starting to pop up a little bit. they're not bad. Delivery is quite good, really good in Piggies, but that's literally the only deck that actually plays it. Nevertheless, it is quite a nice card in that Piggies deck, so I think I'll have to go for it below Evo Skeletons in B tier. Barbarians are actually terrible right now. Where would I want to put these, though? I don't know, they're just not really good. They also heal Evo Pekka really easily as well. And Bomber destroys them. Yeah, Bomber is so good against Barbarians right now. That's why they're pretty bad. I think they deserve the D tier. Evo Barbarians, though, are a little bit better. But really not too good either. I think they could go right below the barrel in the C tier. Maybe a couple Lava Hound players use Evo Barbs, but even then, most of them actually prefer to have the Valkyrie in their deck. Okay, Goblinstein, though. Oh, man. Okay, Goblinstein is the card that is going to go above Evo Pekka, surprisingly. Kind of crazy that something can be even more broken than an Evo Pekka. But man, Goblinstein is in like 60 or 70% of the decks in Grand Challenges right now. It's basically a necessity to use in almost everything except maybe like Lava Hound, for example. Not much to say about it. It got a nerf. It's still so broken regardless, though. Golem. I saw a couple of Golem Cannon Cart players last season. I haven't seen them playing Golem as much anymore, though. Yeah, there's so much Pekka. That's really the main reason that nobody wants to play this card. I'll put it... Oh, I don't even know if it should go this high, honestly. Maybe below the Suspicious Bush in the C tier. There's just way too much Pekka, that's really it. Okay, Dagger Duchess. Where would I put this? I mean... I don't know, I'd probably just put it somewhere here in the C tier. Just really bad at countering Pekka and these beatdown decks like Lava Hound as well. So, just not good in this meta. Goblin Curse, it did get a small damage buff, which I don't really think did too much for it. It still seems to barely be used at all, except by like one singular bait player, I believe. So for the Curse, I'll actually probably put it maybe next to the Void in the D tier. Maybe even above, no, actually, probably it can stay below the Void, probably. Yeah, just a good surprise card, that's it. It's not actually a good card in general, though. Musketeer, 2.6 does use it, and that's it. So can't really go too high. Maybe above the Baby Dragon in C tier. It's not a terrible card, but nobody plays it. Much better to have like Archer Queen or really anything else. Man, I'm actually very surprised here, guys. We have more B tier cards than C tier cards for once, at least so far, but we'll see how this changes. Now Skarmy, man, Skarmy is so incredibly bad, guys. I think I have to put it in the F tier. There's just so many spells. There's Rage. And if you play a Skarmy against a Rage deck, they just get a free Rage effect on all of their troops and kill that Skarmy for a +1 trade. So, yeah, there's just way too many spells, and it doesn't really do much at all these days. RG has actually been performing a little bit better recently. It was very bad when Evo Pekka first came out, but now some RG Lightning players are starting to actually do pretty decent. So I'll put RG here in the... Maybe I'll put normal RG at the bottom of the B tier. Perhaps right above the Evo Wizard or then the Evo RG. Probably above the Mega Knight in the B tier. Does help the RG out a little bit to have that evolution for sure. Mother Witch, it's not really the best meta for Mother Witch. There's not too many Swarm cards since the Bomber is everywhere, kind of preventing Swarm from being that good. And also, a lot of the decks are just very heavy these days. So for Mother Witch, probably a C tier would be warranted. Yeah, probably a high C tier placement. It's definitely a sneakily good card sometimes, but in this particular meta, not really used that much. Golden Knight, man, Golden Knight is so bad, guys. Golden Knight is actually so bad. It's also so terrible against Pekka. I think I might want to go for it in the F tier, or maybe I'll put it a little bit higher than that. Yeah, maybe a little bit higher. Okay, fine, I'll put it at the top of the D tier. Sometimes in competitive play, some Golden Knight drill decks are actually good, but on ladder, nobody plays Golden Knight whatsoever. Giant, though, man, Goblin Giant is just so much better than Giant. That's the issue for the card right now. Yeah, Giant, I just can't really think of anyone who actually plays Giant. Not even Giant Graveyard is popular right now, either. Giant, yeah, Giant is just not used much at all. I think I'll have to put it kind of in the middle here of the C tier. Not really sure if I'd rank it exactly here, but just roughly in the middle of the C tier. Xbow, there were actually quite a few Xbow players recently finishing pretty well, but I think it's starting to fall off just a little bit more again. But now that I think about it, Piggy's Earthquake is super popular, and Xbow does actually beat the Piggy's Earthquake deck because even though they have Earthquake, they have 0 tanks for the card. So Xbow, I think I actually am going to rank a little bit higher, just predicting that it's going to make a big comeback in this meta. I'll actually put it at the top of the C tier because I think it'll actually be really good this meta. I think some Xbow players are going to finish really high up. Alright, so next up we have the Bomb Tower. There is so many Piggies decks, so you would think Bomb Tower would be good, but the cannon is just 10 times better. It's better to have like a cannon and a bomber in your deck rather than to have them both in one in the Bomb Tower. But yeah, I guess I'll put it at the top of the C tier. It's a good card. It should be good this meta, that is, but there's just better options in the cannon. Even Tesla's better as well. Bats were kind of used in the Mortar decks, but those decks fell off, and now there's nothing else that really plays Bats. Yeah, there's just the same issue with Bats as there is with Skarmy. There's so many spells, so much rage and stuff like that. So for Bats, I think I'd probably have to say C tier is fine for them. Evo Bats are a little bit better. Yeah, Evo Bats I might put a little bit higher in the B tier. Just kind of like the lower end of the B tier. Electro Giant was actually super terrible when Cannoneer was meta, but it got a decent nerf. Decent couple nerfs. So now E-Giant could probably manage to sneak its way up here in the C tier. I think I'd put it below the Goblin Barrel in the C tier. I have seen a few E-Giant players start to come back, but obviously Pekka makes it really hard to play E-Giant in this meta, unless you have the perfect version to counter Pekka. Okay, Elixir Golem, I would say could... No, E-Golem is so bad now. It used to be good because of the Void, but Void got a nerf. Evo Wizard got a nerf. Cannoneers start to be played less. And all of those factors combined just made E-Golem so bad right now. And I think E-Golem has to go in the D tier, probably right above Goblins. I have seen one E-Golem player have some success, but that's literally it. It's just really hard to play it right now. There's not much going for it at all. The Goblin Sign ability is also super broken against E-Golem pushes, it seems like. Yeah, not much else to say about that. Three Musketeers are very bad as well. Lightning does do a great job against them, and they've been bad for a long time. There's just no reason for them to be any better now than they have always been. Yeah, Three Musketeers, man, I think I have to put them in the F tier. Probably right above the Wizard in the F tier. They're just trash, that's it. Now, Balloon has been actually kind of decent recently, the Lava Loon decks, and even Balloon Cycle is actually not as bad as it has been in the past. So Balloon, I'm actually going to put it decently high up here. Where would I put it exactly, though? Exactly. I don't know, it's actually feeling quite good to me. I think the top of the B tier, almost low A tier, because, yeah, Lava Hound is actually really good. Not all Lava Hound decks even use Balloon these days, though, but yeah, it's definitely a nice card to run. Dark Prince was popular for some time to counter the Evo Drill, but now Evo Drill is still good, but not as broken as before, and people just don't really seem to fit Dark Prince in their decks super well these days. So I guess Dark Prince could kind of just go in the middle here of the C tier. Yeah, maybe even below the Suspicious Bush. It's really not a bad card, though, but just not used in this meta much at all. Okay, Goblin Hut, man. Goblin Hut is so bad. I don't know where I'd put it, below or above the Wizard. I think above the Wizard, actually, because it's a bit better against Lightning than a Wizard would be. Nothing to really say about that card. Oh man, Monk, dude. Monk used to be so good, guys. It was so good in RG and everything, but Evo Pekka came out, and it kind of just ruined Monk's career. Kind of hard to play Monk these days. Let me think about this one. What deck even uses Monk now? I don't even know. I think nothing. It was all RG before, but that got a decent nerf. I think Monk is going to still be quite good in duels, though. I will say that. Okay, Monk will actually put it a little bit higher then because of that. Yeah, probably somewhere here in the upper C tier. I think it has almost no usage on ladder, at least top ladder, but I think in duels it'll actually be quite good when Pekka is out. Then you can actually play the Monk and get some good value out of it. Also, it is a champion, and people play Goldenstein now, not the Monk. Okay, Poison is always very solid, very good in Drill, very good in most of the Cycle decks that don't run Lightning. Not that many Cycle decks run Lightning, so Poison, I mean, I guess it could go somewhere here in the A tier. Not really high A tier, though, because Lightning is so much better, as I said. Now, Phoenix is actually very good in the Pekka Goblinstein Goblin Giant deck. Not too many other decks actually use it, though. But let me think about this. I guess I'd put it above the Archer Queen in the B tier. Maybe it could even go low A tier, but it's not used in too many decks, even though I feel like it is quite solid. The Princess is used in Logbait, that's pretty much it. I think I'd put Princess below the Evo Archers in the C tier. I don't know, maybe that little Princess Rocket Cycle that could become meta again, and then Princess could be like a B tier. But I haven't seen it too much recently, so I think for now C tier is fine on the Princess. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll put it a little bit higher, actually. Maybe above the Prince in C tier. Alright, next up we have the Minions. They are used in Lava Hound, and that's literally it. So I think I'll put them probably towards the bottom of the B tier. Could almost be C tier, but they're not bad. Just not really good either. Arrows counter them, and yeah, that's really it. Skeleton Dragons have actually fallen off a little bit. Now the Lava Hound decks prefer minions over them. And there's not too much else that actually runs them. So Skelly Drags, I would say, are just not too good right now, actually. Yeah, I don't know, I'd probably put them at the top of the C tier. They're a good card, probably going to be quite good in competitive play, but they're just not really used much for some reason right now. They just are not that good at the Goblinstein. I mean, versus the Goblinstein, I guess, and yeah, Lava Hound decks seem to prefer minions for one reason or another, so yeah. Okay, Firecracker. Man, Firecracker was actually very good a couple weeks ago in that Ramrider Lightning deck, but the Goblinstein got a nerf, and then that deck kind of fell off a little bit. So Firecracker, I don't know where I'd put it. Maybe like the top of C tier. Then Evo Firecracker could be a little bit better. And maybe like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I would say. Maybe kind of more in the middle of the B tier, actually. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Maybe right below Evo Barrel. I don't know, it's kind of hard to say because that deck kind of fell off pretty quickly, that Ramrider deck, and that was really the only deck playing it. Hog EQ is not really used much at all anymore. Alright, the Goblin Machine got an HP buff, but it's still just not really used almost at all, despite that buff. I knew it wouldn't really be enough to make the card good, and I was right. Yeah, Goblin Machine, this can go straight into F tier. Yeah, kind of just like the middle of the F tier. It's so bad, it just like, I don't know, just like walking HP. It doesn't do any damage, it's just like a HP shield with not that much HP in the first place for 5 Elixir. It's so bad. Battle Ram is so much worse than Ramrider right now, so there's really no reason to play it. I think I'd probably put it behind the Princess in the C tier. Maybe even behind the Prince too. No, actually I'm going to put it a little bit lower, yeah. Okay, now that I think about it, I'll move Evo Archers up a couple spots as well. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'll put them all the way up here, actually. Evo Archers are a bit better than I was saying, I feel like. Okay, Evo Battle Ram. Nobody really plays Evo Battle Ram. Maybe a couple spots higher than the normal Battle Ram. But yeah, it's not very good. Electro Spirit was actually quite good, but Ice Spirit is so much better now. I guess RG decks use the E-Spirit, but even then I don't think RG decks these days have E-Spirit as much. I think they have like Bomber and stuff like that instead. Or maybe they do have some E-Spirit. Yeah, I don't know. E-Spirit, I guess I would put it in the C tier. It's always going to be a decent card if it's only 1 Elixir. Okay, let me see if I can zoom out. Alright guys, the tier list is getting a little bit too big right now to actually fit on my whole screen, but we'll still try to do what we can here. Alright, we have the Fire Spirit. For Fire Spirit, I would say, I don't know. I'd probably say below the E-Spirit in the C tier. Yeah, I think so. I mean, E-Spirit could even be low B tier, maybe. Yeah, I'd probably put it around here in the B tier. And Fire Spirit can stay in the C tier. It's not really used in much of anything, but it's not a bad replacement for Ice Spirit sometimes. Now, Furnace is very bad. Maybe a little bit better than some of these other cards here. I'd probably put it right above the Goblin Machine in the F tier. It just does nothing against Goblinstein, and everyone has Earthquake and stuff like that to counter it really easily too, so yeah, just bad. Just a very bad card. Okay, Guards on the other hand are actually very good, guys. Guards, I mean, I almost want to put them in the S tier, but I think not that high. I think Guards could be used maybe kind of like the higher A tier. Could even go a few spots higher in the A tier with it. They're very good in Goblin Drill, very good in quite a few Cycle decks, but they're not like the best ever. They're kind of decent in Pekka decks too sometimes. Okay, maybe I'll actually rank them a bit higher now that I think about it. I'll put them even above the, you know, Ram Rider and Poison. They're actually very good right now to counter Evo Pekka mainly. Barbarian Hut, man, Barbarian Hut is so bad. Would I put Wizard below or above the Barbarian Hut? This is kind of a tough one, actually. I don't know what I would say. Maybe actually below it. This is our new worst card so far for the tier list, guys, the Barbarian Hut. It's just so bad. Bomber counters it for 2 Elixir. Do not play the card. Miner is not really used too much. It was used kind of a decent amount when Mortar was meta. Now Mortar is not too meta anymore. There are a couple Goblinstein Miner Poison decks, though. So for Miner, I guess I'd put it below the Ram Rider in the A tier. Might be a little bit higher than some other people would rank it, but I believe it'll be quite good this meta. Because at the end of the season, everyone always seems to go back to Miner Poison, even if they switch away to like Goblin Drill and stuff like that earlier. The reason it's not higher up is because Goblin Drill is meta as well, but I don't know, some people like Muhammad like always manage to do quite well with Miner Poison. Okay, Sparky, it's just not good in a Lightning meta. I think that's the main reason why it is so trash right now. Where would I put it, though? Would I put it at the top of the D tier or the bottom? Maybe like the bottom of the C tier. I don't know. There's just too much Lightning. That's really the main reason. Also, Piggies is so good with the delivery, which also counters Sparky pretty easily. Skeleton King was quite good in the Mortar deck, but yeah, that deck did fall off. And that's really the only deck that actually used Skeleton King. So for Skelly King, I mean, I guess the maybe low B tier could be good for it. Yeah. I think this is fair. Also, I'll move the delivery a little bit up as well. Yeah, like somewhere around here, maybe. Maybe above the Mortar as well. Okay, there we go. Next up is the Lava Hound. Lava Hound is actually very strong. Here, let me throw this up here. I think Lava Hound deserves to be in the A tier. I'm not really sure what place in the A tier. Maybe like above the Miner. I really think Lava Hound is just always so underrated. Everyone always says Lava Hound is so bad, but I think it's actually a very strong win condition. It counters a lot of the Psycho decks very easily. Okay, Bowler, man. Bowler's actually not good right now. It's so bad against Evo Pekka. It does counter Piggies pretty good, though. That is the one thing it has going for it. You know, now that I think about it, I'll probably put Firecracker a little bit higher up. Because I know people are going to get so angry at me saying how, oh, I'm so biased as a Firecracker user to not put it higher up. I don't personally think it's that good, but I'll do it for you guys so you guys don't have to get at me in the comment section or whatever. Alright, yeah, Bowler, not very good. It counters Piggies, but nobody even plays Bowler these days very much. Maybe a couple of E-Giant decks that are kind of off meta. Yeah, let me actually put a couple of these cards in a bit of a different spot here. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good. Alright, now we have Royal Hogs, guys. Royal Hogs, believe it or not, are very, very good right now. I'm not exactly sure if I want to put them in the S tier. But dang, they're so good. Okay, you know what? I actually might put them in the S tier, guys, because of how popular they are right now. Yeah, genuinely, guys, Royal Hogs are so good right now. I think Royal Hogs Earthquake might be the best deck in the game right now. They counter Pekka so well. They don't really counter Goblin Drill too well, but they can just, like, beat pretty much every deck in the game. It can beat Lava Hound. There's not much to say. They're just so good right now. And it's nice that they face Cannon a lot instead of Tesla or Bomb Tower, so that makes them so much better as well. And also stuff like Bowler is so bad. Bomber is good, though. That's the one main counter to them, but you can always split your Piggies and do whatever you gotta do with that. Okay, the Witch. I'll put it at the top of the F tier. Maybe even below the Skarmy, actually. Yeah, it's bad. Lightning counters it well. Nothing more to add to that. Alright, now the log. Where would I put the log? I almost want to go S tier, but I'm not really sure. I almost want to say Rage is better, but nah, probably not. Probably not better. Yeah, log could go at the top of the A tier. I don't know if it's quite S tier level just yet. It's definitely good, but it's not like super game breaking. Okay, Freeze, it was actually quite good in Pekka Balloon Freeze, but people started to slowly stop playing that deck quite as much recently. So Freeze, I mean, where would I put this card? Probably, I don't know, actually. Probably above the Giant in the C tier, kind of the middle of the C tier. Mighty Miner was actually quite good in Hog Rider, but Hog Rider is so bad right now, and when people do play Hog Rider, I feel like half the time they play Knight instead, but I don't know, I could be wrong about that. Mighty Miner might just deserve the C tier as well. Kind of like, I don't know. Maybe below the Mother Witch in the C tier, just not used right now. I don't think it's that terrible though, but maybe just needs a better meta where Goldenstein isn't meta and constantly resetting it. No, actually, now that I think about it, I'll put this even lower, actually, just because Goldenstein resets it all the time. Yeah, I'll put it, like, right here. Alright, Lumberjack. I mean, there was the Lumberjack Balloon Pekka deck with Freeze that I was talking about. That's literally it for Lumberjack, I think. So, yeah, I think I'll put this kind of in the middle of the C tier as well. It's just not a great card right now, not too versatile. Mini Pekka is also really bad, man. Why would you play Mini Pekka when you have the big Pekka? That's just the main issue with the card. So for Mini Pekka, I would say probably around where the Dark Prince is in the low C tier would be fair. Okay, the Princess Tower, man, the Princess Tower is actually quite good right now. It's being used quite a bit more than the other towers. Yeah, I don't know where I'd put this in the A tier. Let's see. Probably just somewhere here in the A tier. It's the best tower troop. That's really all there is to it. Okay. Now we have the Mega Minion. Mega Minion is really not good right now. Phoenix is better. And that's really the main issue for the card. So for Mega Minion, I would say, I don't know, kind of around the level of the Freeze, middle of the C tier. It's a little bit underused, but not too bad. Inferno Dragon is not used much right now because Goldenstein resets it. I think if Goldenstein wasn't resetting stuff constantly, Inferno Dragon could actually be a decent card, because it counters Pekka pretty well. Unless they have a reset, that is, which is the Goldenstein. Yeah, I mean, Lava Hound does use it, though, to be fair. And Lava Hound is very strong. Okay, now that I think about it, it actually is not that bad. Yeah, I would say kind of in the low B tier. It's good in Lava Hound, very good in Lava Hound, and that's mostly it. Not too many other decks actually use it. Okay, Mirror. Man, Mirror is so bad. You can't mirror a champion. Man, if you could mirror a champion, then it would be so broken because of the Goldenstein, but that is not a thing. So Mirror, I'd probably put... let me think about this one. I don't know, probably actually a little bit higher in the F tier. It's better than some of these cards, like the Huts, for example. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Graveyard. I mean, I saw a few Splash Yard players came back, and that's really it. Giant Graveyard is not very good right now. It's just not the best meta for a Graveyard. I guess it just loses to the Pekka decks usually. Can't really defend those big pushes. Princess Tower is back too, not too much Cannoneer, so they can't really take advantage of that. So for Graveyard, I don't know. I feel like high C tier is actually good. Giant Graveyard is just so much worse than it has been in a long time. That's really the main thing. Okay, E-Barbs. I have not seen E-Barbs in forever, man. In forever. I don't know where I actually want to put them. Probably below the Three Musketeers in the F tier. They're just not good. Pekka's 10 times better. And that's really all there is to it. Okay, the Tornado hasn't been used too much recently, surprisingly. It definitely is good, though, but you don't really need Tornado anymore with the Ice Mage. And there's not a crazy amount of Tornado decks going around. But I really can't put it too low. I mean, let's check what else we have up here again. Yeah, you have like Fisherman and stuff instead, which is kind of better now. For the Tornado, though, I mean, it can't be that bad. It's very good with E-Drag still and stuff like that. I'd probably say we could put Tornado kind of towards the top of the B tier. It's still a good card, but not as many decks run it as before. Okay, Clone, man. Clone is so bad. So bad. I'd put it above the E-Barbs in the F tier. Even 3M is better than the Clone spell. Minion Horde, nobody plays it. There's arrows everywhere, rage everywhere. All these spells to kill it everywhere. I guess F tier would be fair for it. Yeah, probably F tier above the Skarmy. It is just so bad. Goblin Gang, a couple Logbait players use it, and that's it, I think. Mortar decks do use it sometimes too, I guess. Okay, maybe it's not as bad as I was thinking. But I really don't know if I put it too high up. I think I would say probably towards the top of the C tier. A couple people use it. Not many at all, though. Rocket is really only used in Logbait, and Logbait's not too popular. Well, okay, it kind of is popular, but half the Logbait decks don't even use Rocket these days. So for Rocket, we could say probably kind of low C tier, honestly. Yeah, I'd probably say below the barrel in C tier. Actually, maybe a little bit higher, because I feel like the Princess Rocket deck could come back a bit sometime soon. I have a feeling, man. I have a feeling. So, okay, I'm actually going to put Rocket here, because, guys, I have a feeling that the Princess Rocket deck could come back with Little Prince. Dark Goblin is actually surprisingly good right now with Logbait. Yeah, I normally would rank it in the C tier, but genuinely, Dark Goblin Logbait is actually really good right now. So I think I'd actually put it below the Inferno Dragon in kind of the lower B tier. Little Prince is not really used much at all right now, but it might get used more soon if the Princess Rocket deck comes back, because I really think it might come back soon. We'll have to see about that. Maybe after Goblinstein gets a small nerf, it could come back. Yeah, Little Prince is not really used much at all because of that, so I don't know where I'd put it. Maybe below the Evo Archers in C tier, but if Goblinstein gets a nerf and other champions can start to be played again, I think it'll actually be more like the B tier. Oh wait, what just happened? What did I just move? Did I just move something? Oh, I just moved the Skelly King. Let me throw that right back wherever it was. I don't know exactly where I had it. I'll put it somewhere around here in the B tier. Okay. Executioner. Straight up nobody plays it. Yeah, it's just not good at all. Might be better than some of these other cards, though. I'll put it at the bottom of the D tier. It's just not good this meta. Doesn't really do enough damage to counter stuff like the big Pekka pushes. It's really bad against Pekka. I think that's the main reason that nobody plays the card. Baseball Tiny. It's no longer special. It used to survive a bomber shot when none of the other spirits did, but now it's not special anymore. So it's really that as the main issue for the card. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably put it towards the bottom of the, or towards the top of the D tier. It is a easy card to fit in your deck if you want to play it, but there are pretty much always better options unless you're playing maybe like a giant Sparky deck or something like that. Alright, Bandit. Man, Bandit and Ghost used to be in every single Pekka deck, but nowadays people prefer to have stuff like a Fisherman instead of Bandit and something like Guards instead of Ghost. So actually Bandit is not being used a crazy amount, surprisingly. So for that, I don't know if I could rank it too high. I almost want to say just the C tier, because it's so much better to just have Guards instead in Pekka decks. Could be maybe low low B tier, but I don't know, it's really just not used too much. Now the Night Witch was quite good in E-Golem, and that was mainly it. But now that E-Golem fell off, and also Cannoneer fell off, it makes Night Witch really not that good anymore. I could see some giant graveyard decks using it maybe, but I'll just put it in the middle of the C tier for right now. I think that's a safe place for the card. Skelly Barrel actually got a decent buff, but Mega Knight Skelly Barrel is so hard to run in a Pekka meta with so many spells too and stuff like that. Yeah, there's just so many spells going around right now. I think Skelly Barrel will just have to go here in the D tier. Yeah, there's just way too many cheap spells. I don't know what they could do to buff it, but they probably have to do something. Flying Machine is actually not that bad right now. Recruits decks are doing really well with it. Also some Lava Hound decks. So yeah, I think for Flying Machine, I'd actually have to put it a little bit higher up here. Not too high up, though. Maybe like I don't know. Yeah, kind of like the little bit of a lower half of the B tier. It's very good in recruits right now. There is one recruits deck with piggies that's quite good, with Flying Machine, as well as a Lava Hound Lightning deck, doing quite well in the meta. Okay, Cannon Cart was actually really good with Mortar, but that deck kind of fell off. But I think I would still give it a decent ranking. I think I'd still put Cannon Cart not super high, but not super low either. Maybe like right around the Inferno Dragon in the B tier. It is a very good card ever since that bug it got, where it has like 1 extra HP, it feels like. Yeah, it's definitely good now. At least a little bit good. The Zappies, I have seen a couple players start to use it a little bit in maybe like balloon decks and stuff like that. Because not as many people play stuff like Fireball. Most people are playing Lightning these days. So for Zappies, I mean, what would be fair for them? I would say below the Goblin Gang in the higher C tier. They might be a little bit underrated. They're not a bad card to snipe certain decks. Barbarian Barrel is not super popular. It's not really the spell of choice anymore. I feel like there's a better spell for the majority of decks these days. But it still is a decent card nonetheless. Barbarian Barrel. I would probably try to throw kind of like around here in the lower B tier as well. Yeah, that seems pretty fair for it. Alright, Hunter. Hunter is so bad. I just haven't seen it for so long. There's not much of a reason to play it. You have Pekka instead for that heavy DPS. All the decks already have heavy DPS. They don't really need an extra Hunter in there that just takes like 10 seconds to shoot one single shot. So, yeah, Hunter, I mean, I don't even know. I think somewhere in the D tier is fine. Not exactly sure where in the D tier, but this should be okay for now. Okay, Ghost has actually been making a bit of a comeback. I was saying how Pekka decks don't really use Ghost and Bandit anymore, but I have seen some Pekka decks start to use Ghost again, and they just don't have the Bandit in there now, it looks like. And also RG decks have been using Ghost, so I think for a Ghost, we could actually put it all the way up here in the A tier. Yeah. Probably alongside the Ramrider in the A tier. It's actually very good right now. Maybe even above the Ramrider, or would I put it above the Ramrider? Maybe not above it, but it's very good right now. Very solid support card in the meta, for sure. Magic Archer. Nobody really plays Magic Archer Drill anymore. I feel like it just struggles too much against the Evo Pekka decks. So Magic Archer is a little bit of a forgotten card these days. I don't know exactly where I want to put it, though. Probably behind Hog Rider in the C tier. Now we have the Rat Skulls. They were good in Logbait for a very short time, but that was kind of short-lived. They're kind of bad again. They're a 5 elixir card, kind of just like a worse Goblinstein all around, honestly. People prefer to have 5 elixir cards like a Goblinstein instead of Rat Skulls. So Rat Skulls are just a bunch of rats. I'd probably not put them too high up. I don't know. I don't know where exactly they should go. Maybe like a low C tier. They could honestly even be D tier, but they're kind of better than some of the other cards I see right here, so I think this is fair. Snowball, I mean, I think only Balloon uses Snowball. Yeah, really only Balloon. But it's not that bad. I could put it at the top of the C tier, maybe. Now, Waller's actually got a decent buff since Cannoneer's a lot weaker now. It makes them a bit more playable. Still, nobody really uses them except of Mega Knight players. So I'd probably put them below the Prince in the C tier. And Evo Wall Breakers, I mean, they're not really used much either, surprisingly. Wall Breakers are used without them half the time, I feel like. Yeah, I don't even know. I'd probably put them kind of just below the bush in the C tier. Battle Healer, really only used with Elixir Golem. Not really used in stuff like Golem anymore. This is actually our final card here. Yeah, I'll put the Battle Healer, I guess, right next to the Elixir Golem. Maybe a few spots above it. A little bit higher up in the D tier, towards the top of the D tier. And guys, that is our full tier list here, so let me just scroll through it for you guys. We have Goblinstein at the top here. Yeah, quite a big tier list. This is our whole tier list. Alright, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!